Hello, my fellow grievers. So, today I would like to talk about what happens when you don't deal with your grief. That is our topic for this week, and I will give you a heads up. It's not good when you don't deal with your grief. I'm going to start out with a little story about my brother. I am sure he's going to hate this, but hopefully he'll never see it. So, my brother asked me about 3 months after my 10-year-old daughter passed away when I was going to get over it. And I pretty much wanted to punch him in the face that he expected me to get over the death of my daughter. And this is how a lot of people feel, though. And I know a lot of people are kind of scared to show their true feelings because they're uncomfortable with them. It's not fun talking about death. It can be weird for people when you bring up your loved one. But you know what? That's part of the process of grieving. My brother tends to push everything down, and we had a lot of deaths in our family in the last few years, and he doesn't really deal with any of it. He just pushes it down to his toes and pretends it's not happening and keeps himself busy, and that's always the way that he's been. I, on the other hand, research everything like a nerd and try to work my way through things as best as I possibly can. So while I'm still devastated, I'm definitely in the process of working on my grief and working on healing. And honestly, that is the best thing you can do, because in all of that research that I've done, and from knowing this before with psychology classes, repressing grief is one of the most unhealthy things that you can do. Grief never goes away. It doesn't leave you. If it's someone that you truly cared about and loved, that grief will always be there. And I know that about my daughter. But you can work on that grief if you let yourself go through it and feel it. The best way to face grief is just head on, head right into it. And I'm not saying you can never distract yourself. You obviously can, and you're not going to be sad every single second of the day. Some people are afraid if they let themselves feel anything that they won't be able to stop feeling. And that's just not true. I am sad about my daughter all the time. I think about her all the time. I have days when I'm relatively okay. I have days when I completely lose it. And I don't feel sad about that. That is the process of grief. And that is my hope for all of you, that you will watch this and you will realize that trying to stuff those feelings down and not think about the person that you've lost is not the best way to deal with it. There's this analogy that's out there everywhere if you look around, and I'll just kind of summarize it, but it's basically the idea, the metaphor, that if you break a leg or you cut yourself and you are bleeding profusely, what would you do? Would you just ignore it and let yourself bleed? Would you just let yourself walk around with a broken leg or a broken arm? No, you wouldn't. It's not even a question. And with grief, it's the same exact way. If you're grieving, it's like having an injury that you need to take care of. If you don't take care of it, it is just going to fester, just like an injury would. If you wouldn't tend to a bleeding cut and you would just let it go, it's going to get infected. And that's what happens inside of you if you don't deal with your grief. All right, so repressing grief can cause a host of problems. I've told you that it's bad, so now I'm going to tell you why it's bad. It causes physical problems and mental problems. So if we start with the mental problems, ignoring your grief, avoiding it, downplaying it, not talking about it to people, what's going to happen there is, like I said, it's not going to go away. It's just going to be hidden, waiting to come out. So a lot of people that do this and kind of display these avoidance behaviors, they tend to become irritable, anxious, angry, fearful. You can have difficulty concentrating. So those are some of the mental things that are going on. A lot of people start avoiding things that remind them of their loved one, or they avoid social situations, or they just, like my brother and I mean, when he said that to me about getting over my daughter, I just gave him a giant FU and we didn't talk for about 2 weeks. So it can cause strains in relationships, and we're okay now. Love you, bro. But at the time, I was not happy when he said that. So it can really strain relationships. Physically, from repressing all of those emotions, you can suffer from headaches. A lot of people have digestion or stomach issues. You can have high blood pressure. It can cause weight gain or loss, and also sleeplessness. Those are some of the biggest side effects that come from repressing grief. Dealing with grief takes a lot of courage, okay? Repressing it, avoiding it, not dealing with it, it's not necessarily the easy way out, because you're going to deal with it eventually. It's going to come out eventually, whether it is mentally, physically, it will affect you somehow. You can't really escape it. But if you deal with your grief head on, you can work through it and learn to deal with those feelings little by little. So I'm not saying that it's going to be poof and you're going to decide that you're going to work on your grief and we're going to pretend to be all happy and wonderful and everything's great and I'm working through my grief. No, it's still going to suck, but you will at least be going healthily through the process of healing, which is what you want. Take it one step at a time. Your mind and your body will thank you. And I am here to help you along. If you have any questions or comments about anything that I said, please feel free to drop them below or get a hold of me. Again, my site is grievingmommy.com. I would love to have you follow us and join you in your grief journey. So catch you guys later.